When it comes to photographing cakes, I think there's two main approaches you can take. The first is pointing the camera straight down from above, and that can really produce a nice circular image on a square frame. But one of the more exciting approaches is to get lower down and photograph it from the side, and this also opens up the opportunity to actually capture some icing sugar being sprinkled from above. So the first step is to find a nice contrasting background for the light colour of the cake and obviously the white colour of the icing sugar itself. I've got a white wall behind, that won't do, so instead I've just found two old slate tiles. That will do absolutely fine. They provide fantastic contrast for a light subject like this, and in fact slates are really good for photographing any kind of fruit or vegetable or dessert or cake, anything you like. You can still see the white wall behind it, so I'm going to zoom in here. I found that the 2x position here really frames the cake nicely, and I've left lots of space above it in order to see that icing sugar being sprinkled on. I'm pretty pleased with the way that this composition looks. Look at the contrast between the light colour of the cake and the plate against that. But we also want to instruct the camera not to focus or expose for anything else. I want the cake to be exposed, and the way to do it on this model is to press and hold for an AE-AF lock. And doing so, you may need to just reposition the camera, reframe it. That's looking pretty good to me. Now, the next step is to just sprinkle that icing sugar on, and I've already got some icing sugar ready in a little sieve to the side here. However, rather than trying to capture the absolute decisive moment with just one picture, I'm going to give myself a better chance of doing that by selecting a burst mode. This is going to take 20 pictures in quick succession, and hopefully one of them is going to look pretty good. So I'm going to get the icing sugar ready, thumb over the button, and position this sieve. Now, you may like the sieve out of the frame or in the frame. I actually prefer it in the frame, so I like the way that looks. I'm going to start shaking while I push the button. And hopefully one of those is going to look pretty good. Let's take a look. Okay, now it's time to review those pictures, see if we've got a nice one, and because it was a burst, I first need to expand it by tapping that icon at the top. And as I push through them here, you can see that there's not a lot of action to start with actually until I really begin to shake the little sieve here. And as I do, notice how the icing sugar is falling out, it's blurring into nice lines. I really like that motion. The thing is, I quite like a bit of space underneath it, but there's just not quite enough icing sugar here, so it's not quite giving me the effect I want. And by the time I'm really shaking it, you can see that it's almost like a solid column of sugar. This doesn't look that dynamic to me. It kind of looks a bit messy, and this is a bit clumpy at the top, and there's some motion blur on my hand. So they're okay, but they're not quite giving me the effect that I want. Okay, so let's expand this alternative burst, and again it starts pretty much the same. There's not a lot of action going on at all. As I begin to shake the sieve more, you can begin to see the icing sugar falling out of it onto the cake, and I quite like that there is a little bit of space underneath, so you can see it is a falling process. This one has begun to get a little bit busy, but by the time we get to the end of this sequence, I really like this final frame. So you can see there's plenty of icing sugar there. You're not in any doubt as to what's going on in this picture. It's not a continuous column. You can see an end to it here. And I like the way that it spreads out almost into a kind of teardrop shape. And the hand is less blurred. I like the positioning of the sieve. In some of the pictures, it was a bit too close and a bit too big or too full with the icing sugar. For me, this is a shot that compositionally really works. So that's the one that I'm going to keep. Oh.